BMWs that you should buy that can last up to 250,000 miles and beyond. Well, a lot of people give Toyota credit for making 100, 200,000 miles all day long. The fact remains is, after owning dozens of BMWs myself, there are a few key BMWs that will last over 250,000 miles, and you should seriously consider buying one. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
One of the first BMWs you have to consider if you're thinking about buying a BMW is what we're looking at right in front of us. This is a 340. You can also look at a 440 because it's just a coupe version of the same drivetrain, the same chassis. That carries the B58 engine under the hood. Not only do you get some great technology in the new redesign, but in the 340 you see the crosshatch design. That gives that away. That gives you the inline 3-liter turbocharged 6-cylinder that happens to be twin scroll. But these are known for massive levels of reliability because BMWs pulled up their pants, wiped their nose, and finally figured out how to build a reliable engine, because the B58 engine now comes in and around that 2018, 2019, you're going to want to start shopping around for one of these cars, not just for the style, but because what they've done to that engine. That engine now has heat encapsulation, prevents the up and high and low swings of temperature, which of course is the enemy to plastic. So you have less plastic failures, less coolant failures. Now you have two coolant tanks. The head and the crankcase actually have two separate cooling circuits to give it more efficient cooling to keep the engine cooler. It's got a single turbo, no twin turbos here, but it's also a closed deck design. You're no longer relying on the head gasket to keep the coolant in, because some of the older generations actually use the head gasket and a little bit of excess boost pressure or a little extra temperature, and you'd blow a head gasket. Now you're consuming oil and coolant. But these vehicles do not have that. They've fixed that problem with better fuel injection. It's direct injected, of course, but it's also made it up to infamously reliable ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, which is one of their stalwarts, one of the most reliable transmissions, not just for BMW, for virtually every European brand, and even some of the North American manufacturers that are using that same transmission. They do come with an all-wheel drive system. Of course, here you get the M340i, and the X-Drive means you get the all-wheel. So it's predominantly rear-wheel drive, gives you all-wheel drive up front. It's practical, it's an easy vehicle to own and operate, and you can get over 250,000 miles. I've seen the classifieds. Many of these go 200 and 250,000 miles and beyond. By that time, you're more than sick and tired of it. But there's many other great attributes. Like BMW incorporated a more sturdy bottom end. Now you get a mechanical water pump, which is much more robust than the outgoing electric water pump, which was convenient to use, but very problematic and quite expensive. They were plastic housings and they failed. These new mechanical water pumps are much easier to monitor and much cheaper to fix. This new generation offers the ability to take on a vast amount of boost pressure increase. So you can mod these vehicles and still drive away and have some fun and know full well that it's still going to last. Now, the only thing you have to keep in mind with these 340s is, of course, like everything, the PCV valve is taking control of a lot of these manufacturers. So there's a diaphragm that can fail. That's something you need to be aware of. You have to also think about making sure you're doing your oil services 3,000 to 5,000 miles max. Forget about that 10,000 mile service. That's nonsense. That's bung. You also have to keep an eye on your coolant, because there are known problems for some of those coolant reservoirs to crack and slightly leak. Keep an eye on your coolant levels and you should be good to go. Frequent services, just like walnut blasting, or looking after the intake valves as well as the injectors, which can develop some carbon because it's direct injected. Take care of the intake, take care of the oil, take care of the fuel, use the top grade products, and this vehicle can easily go 200 to 250,000 miles. The only thing you have to think about the odd time is a pan gasket leak and the oil filter housing gasket leak right here. That oil filter housing gasket has been a problem for just about every inline 6 BMW. Of course, you have the cooler, you have it all mounted up to the side of the engine, and sometimes they tend to leak. You get leaking coolant, oil, or sometimes just a mix of both. Keep an eye on that leak. That's a predominant area, and the rest of it is good to go. So like I said, with the 340, 440, anything with that B58, like the 3 Series cars, keep an eye on your maintenance and the rest will take care of you. This is the next vehicle that you should seriously consider. If you want a vehicle in BMW that's fun to drive, full of all of the sporting attributes and as well as all the attitudes, I mean, we all have a little attitude, is this vehicle right here. And this is a BMW X3. Now the beauty with this, it's one of the most versatile models in BMW's lineup. Not only is it stylish, sporty, practical, gives you the X-Drive all-wheel drive system. Of course, it's highly based on the 3 Series cars that we just looked at, but it's an SUV. It stands upright, and it also shares the same platform as the X4. So the X3, the X4 is just more of the sport crossover. This is the SUV. So they're effectively the same vehicle, same engines, same transmissions, almost the same interior. The only difference is, of course, course. This is more upright like a boot, whereas the X4 tends to sit a little flatter. It's a little harder for access, a little more reduced space in the back. You do get some great alloys. Look at the great detailing on there. One touch in. Of course, you can get roof glass on top as well, although this one's a little lacking. LED taillights. This X3 features the xDrive 30i, and the 30i means that this is the base engine, and also the base engine you get in the 3 Series, 4 Series BMWs, even the 5 Series. But the X3, also one of the versatile engines. Anything designated 3.0 is actually kind of strange, because the 3.0 means it's got the 2-liter turbo 4 called the B48 engine. It's also very reliable, has a lot of the same features that you're gonna find in the B58. It has a 2-liter turbocharged, made it up to an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission that puts out about 255 horsepower. Now, of course, latest generations have a little bit of hybrid assist or a little extra boost, but they're absolutely reliable. They have the same attributes. Typical, you've got to look after the oil filter housing. Be sure to watch out for the PCV issues when they crop up. Change your plugs and do the walnut blasting if need be, or clean the intake as needed. But generally, that's not something until 70, 80, 90,000 miles you need to worry about down the road. And more than capable of running 200, 250,000 miles and beyond. You get the same heat encapsulation system, mechanical water pump, single turbo twin scroll system that you find in the B58, or very similar, slightly different tuning, of course. But it's that 2-liter B48 engine that you find in the X3 and the X4 that are some of the most reliable engines in their arsenal. And that's why I truly believe this one will go the distance. You can also upgrade to get the B58. Instead of the 3.0, you can get the 4.0 or M40. And you can also get the M version, which gives you the hot version of the S58 engine. That's right, that's the sport-tuned hot model that you're getting, of course, in M3 and the M4 competition cars. Extremely fast, 500 ponies and beyond, very tunable, very robust, and twin turbos. It's definitely a finely tuned vehicle. They're hard to come by and they're very expensive, but they are all actually coincidentally quite reliable. So whether you're getting the M version, the 40 or the 30i, the X3, X4 is going to be a very reliable vehicle, most of which can go over at least 200,000 miles. And here's the next one in line I'm going to strongly recommend for BMWs that are going to go the distance. Here we have an X5, and most people will say Mercedes, the entry point is really an E-Class. They say where that's truly where luxury hits the road. And this is effectively the same thing for BMW. You got to get into a 5 Series or you got to get into an X5 that really does give you the real sense of luxury. It feels heavier, sturdier, more prominent, and gives you more of the features and options that you would wish for. But it also has some very versatile drivetrains. You can no longer get the diesels. That was a great option. That's gone. The X5 like this does give you a few different engine choices. You can get the entry level point for this in North America with the xDrive 40i. That means you get the B58 engine. You can also get a couple of other great engine choices. You get the wonderful N63, the latest upgrade. Of course, the initial version 1 was an absolute horrifying mess with all kinds of reliability problems. The latest is much, much better. You also get the S63, which gets you the M version, or the X5M, which is the hot version with significant performance numbers. If performance is your ultimate goal, then the X5M is the objective. You could put that up against the Cayennes, you put that up against the Lamborghini Uruses and the RSQ8s. The X5M does 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, cracks a quarter mile in absolutely astonishing numbers. The X5M is going to cost you significant dollars in terms of overall repair and maintenance costs, and it probably won't make that 200,000 miles. If you're looking for a BMW that's going over 2 to 250,000 miles, you don't go with the X5M. You don't even go with the 50 generation, because the 50 series is basically the N63, or the latest upgrade of that, which is much better. It does give you the shielding in the V, because the hot V was taking a real toll on the first generations. The vehicle I would strongly advise is to get this exact vehicle. I mean, pick your color, but essentially you're dealing with an X5 that carries the same engine that reliable X3 and the 3 Series carry, and that's something labeled with the 40i, meaning the B58. Because as I've said already, the B58 gives you a lot of great upgrades, much better than the outgoing 6-cylinder like the N55 or the N54, which is an absolute nightmare. The N54, I had one of those in my BMW 335 a few years ago, and it was just loaded with problems like oil filter housing gasket issues, wastegate rattle problems, direct injectors failures, high pressure fuel pump failures, water pump, thermostat, cooling lines. There was always something failing on it, and it just never ended. It also had an open deck design, which left it susceptible to blowing head gaskets. That being said, the latest B58, which you would find in the 40 series of the X5, you could also find in the X6 and the X7. So if you're looking at getting into a larger, luxurious BMW X5, X6, X7, and the X8, you're going to get into one with the 40 generation engine, which is the B58, and it's ultra reliable. You get heat encapsulation, better fuel system, you get 2 stages of cooling, you get a whole plethora of upgrades, and a lot of parts that just make the car much better than the sum of its components. So this is the third vehicle I would strongly recommend if you're thinking about buying a BMW and you want it to go over 250,000 miles. And just in case maybe BMW is not your flavor, check out that playlist of some of the best vehicles I highly recommend that you should seriously consider buying. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. See you then. Bye-bye.